Hey guys, and welcome back to Monka, where stupid shit ensues, but last week I beat a game, so I kind of wanted to talk about it. Now, I beat it last week, and I didn't talk about it last week. Why is that? Last week I was fucking sick, so I didn't get a chance to actually talk about this game, but now that I'm not as sick, I still kind of have the sound in my voice probably, but since I'm not as sick now, I want to talk about it and get my opinions out there. But what game did I beat? Well, last week I beat Bravely Default 2, specifically the Nintendo Switch version of Bravely Default 2. Never played the original Bravely Default or Bravely Second, so I don't know anything about those games at least. I just had jumped into this one pretty much with no knowledge of the series prior. As far as I've understood it, as far as I've been told, Bravely Default 2 is a completely new game, so you don't have to understand the story of the original 2 to play this one. It seems to be the case for the most part. There may have been insinuations to the first game or Bravely Second, I am not sure though. Bravely Default 2 was released about 2 years ago now. It was released in January of 2021, developed and published by Square Enix, but the long and the short of my opinions are Bravely Default 2, it's an alright game, I suppose. I mean, it's alright. Like, you gotta know what you're looking for when you're getting into it. I feel like a lot of people probably won't really enjoy this game because it's a really generic JRPG in the sense that it just plays like a really classic JRPG. It really doesn't do that much unique in terms of story, characters, gameplay, much of anything. That being said, it's still a pretty fun game if you can enjoy it. That being said, it's not the best game I've ever played. It certainly isn't like an amazing blow me away type of game. It's alright overall, to be honest, but with all that said, it's kind of ironic because I played 78 hours of this game. I did damn near pretty much everything you could. The only things that I really didn't do, I didn't max out character levels, I didn't max out the level for 2 of the jobs, and I did not beat one side mission, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, I did pretty much everything for this game, and like I said, that took me 78 hours, which is kind of funny because I say, oh, it's an alright game, but I put 78 hours into it, and that's really just the nature of a JRPG player, I guess. We just play games that we're alright with to completion, even if we're not like crazy about them. But starting with the graphics of Bravely Default 2, the graphics are alright. They are nothing crazy. The hand-painted parts of like the cities are kind of cool. Other than that, the graphics are like alright. They're nothing amazing. They're nothing terrible. They're just alright graphics overall. And the game runs fine on Nintendo Switch. For whatever reason, at some points it had a frame drop, even though it doesn't look amazing. Those frame drops were very far and few in between. Otherwise, it ran just fine. In terms of the music's kind of another department where it's like, it's kind of alright. There are some bangers, mainly in the overworld, and some of the dungeons kind of have some songs that kind of bump. Other than that, though, most of the songs are alright. I wouldn't say there's anything like bad or offensive in the soundtrack. Most of the music is like alright. In terms of the voice actors are in our case where it's just like I can say it's alright. Nothing really amazing, to be honest, in the voice acting department. I played the game with Japanese voice actors and they were alright, honestly. Really nothing that happens in the game is so crazy that like the voice actors would like go nuts. So the voice actors were alright too. So overall, in terms of sound design, there's a few bangers in the soundtrack. The voice actors are alright. Overall though, it's like nothing amazing again, to be honest. Now in terms of story and characters, to be honest, this is kind of a very forgettable story. The story really does not do anything crazy. It is a very generic story, to be honest. Really, the story can be described very easily. Pretty much the main character is an aimless main character, but he and a group of 3 other characters pretty much set out on an adventure to collect crystals to stop pretty much the end of the world occurring and from like an evil spirit being awakened. That's pretty much the long of the story of the story, and it doesn't do anything unique besides that, unfortunately. It is very generic, and there's no real surprises in the story. The story is really uninteresting, and it just kind of serves to guide you through the gameplay, really, in the environments. It's nothing amazing. I'm not going to rant or rave about this story. I'll probably forget it eventually, because really, it was nothing amazing. Now, in terms of the characters, besides the 4 main characters, pretty much all the other characters are pretty forgettable. Side characters, you won't really remember them. They don't have much of a personality or anything like that. The 4 main characters, your character really isn't all that interesting as well. There's another character named Gloria, which is like a princess. She's pretty uninteresting as well. The 2 main characters that are actually kind of interesting are the characters known as Adele and Elvis. They kind of have an interesting personality. Nothing crazy, like I said, but they're by far the most personable characters in the game. But in terms of characters as well, it's alright. Like, really, it's not amazing. The characters really just don't have a lot of personality to them. They don't have a lot of depth as well. Honestly, in terms of stories and characters, like I said, with pretty much much everything else, it's alright, but it does not do anything amazing. It doesn't blow me away. Now, in terms of the gameplay, there's pretty much two aspects to the gameplay, which is exploring the overworld and then dungeon crawling and battling, obviously. The overworld isn't really anything too crazy. It's set between pretty much 5 environments, all pretty generic, to be honest. You got the forest overworld, and you got the desert overworld, you got the swamp overworld, and then you have like the kind of tundra overworld, as long as like a mountainous volcano area overworld. Now, these overworlds are really interesting, and none of the towns that they inhabit or are set in the middle of the overworlds are really interesting as well. The dungeon crawling is kind of cool, but it does nothing amazing. The dungeons are pretty linear. They don't really have any branching paths to them. Some of them do near the end of the game, but other than that, most of them are pretty straightforward. So in terms of the world exploration, this game really isn't anything interesting, to be honest. Now, in terms of customization, this is about where the game gets the most interesting. The game has a lot of customization to it. You can customize your characters, all of your characters' gear, you can customize their perks, and you can customize what jobs they hold. In terms of jobs, this game has a lot of jobs. Like, I don't know how many, but I think maybe in the realm of maybe 16. But this game has a lot of jobs, which leads to a lot of ways to be able to customize your character and what abilities they have and what strengths and weaknesses they have. And as well with the equipment, you can customize it to play to the strengths of the jobs as well, and then customize your perks to bolster your characters and to play to their strengths as well. This game's customization aspect is by far this game's strongest point, because you can customize so much stuff. You have so many jobs to swap between that can make your character very versatile. You have a lot of equipment that you can use to make your character very versatile, and you can min-max your stats. And as well, your perks can also do the same thing. You can customize your character to play to a certain strength. The customization is really good in this game. It's pretty much the standout part of this game by far, is the fact that you can really customize your character to whatever degree you want. Now, the combat is turn-based combat. It really isn't anything amazing or stand out. The only thing the game does different is it has a brave and a default system. If you default, pretty much you can save up move turns to at least 3, and later in the game you can max it out a bit more with another job. But pretty much when you brave, you pretty much use those points, which are pretty much BP points as they call them, to pretty much you can attack 4 times in a round. You start at 0 by default. In later game, like I said, some classes or jobs will let you have more, and then some perks will let you have more. But pretty much when you max out to 4 moves in a round, you'll go to -3, and you'll have to wait around to get the points back. So it's kind of like a lose a turn if you think about it like that. You can kind of use that system back and forth to, like, if you really want to go on the offensive, you can max out on your brave and just attack 4 times in a round, but then you get penalized if you never defaulted, because you'll have to wait a few rounds before you can attack with that character again. That's kind of the long and the short of the turn-based battle system, and pretty much the most unique thing it does. Otherwise, it's a turn-based JRPG. It does pretty much turn-based JRPG stuff. Besides that system, it does not really anything unique with the turn-based system. But it's not a bad turn-based system either. It can be fun just to mindlessly grind through the game, and I did do a decent amount of mindless grinding. That is kind of fun to me. I like to mindlessly grind, so I kind of enjoyed that aspect. But besides that, the turn-based combat doesn't do anything amazing, but it's alright, like, overall. And if you like to mindlessly grind, like I said, it's fun. The only thing I can really gripe is sometimes the early game is really difficult. You can over-level really early on in this game, and I did just that. And if you over-level, that challenge really goes away, because you can just over level and just blaze through the game like that. I think I hit level 40 before chapter 1 even ended, so it is very easy to over level and just blaze through. So overall, it's not really all that hard to kind of over level, break the game, and just kind of blaze through it. But in terms of the gameplay, again, it doesn't do all that much amazing. It's fine, and if you enjoy grinding, you can really get into this game and grind. But other than that, it's nothing amazing. And as well, the side quests are nothing really amazing as well. A lot of them are fetch quests, and they really don't do all that much. But in conclusion, my opinions on Bravely Default were, I played 78 hours, and I thought it was an alright game. Now, obviously, when I was grinding, and that's what probably made up the bulk of that 78 hours, I was kind of doing other things like watching TV or whatever while the game was kind of on a low volume. So it made it a lot easier to play the game, but it's also worth mentioning the game has 7 chapters. It has a fake out ending in chapter 5. If you reboot your save, you get to chapter 6. It also has a fake out ending on chapter 6 if you reboot your save and you collect all the jobs, you can progress to chapter 7, and chapter 7, when you beat it, it is the true ending to the game. Other than that, the game is alright. Would I recommend you go out of your way to play this game? Absolutely not. If you have this in your backlog, I would say it can sit pretty low in your backlog because this is like not a must-play game. It's alright. If you like a classic JRPG or like kind of a generic JRPG or a simple JRPG, you may enjoy this game. And if you want kind of a break from like, you know, all the crazy shit that they're doing nowadays in JRPG, maybe this is a nice little break for you. But if you're looking for something unique or something not generic, this is not your game because it's just pretty much a generic JRPG, or you could maybe even call it a classic JRPG because it does nothing amazing. You've probably played games like this before, and it's an alright game though. But even though it's an alright game, I can't really go out of my way to recommend it. But thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you. Stay chill.